Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to your lotus feet, which are now giving shelter to the entire world. You were the first Vaishnava to come to the West and present pure Krishna consciousness. For the first time, you presented the standards that are required to make this life successful, and thus return back to Godhead in this very lifetime. And although you had no resources, your accomplishments go beyond any mundane understanding. By all material calculations, you should have failed. You should have died on that freighter boat. You should have frozen to death in the coldest winter in New York history at the time. You should have been violently attacked by the drug-addicted hippies. You had no fixed residence. You had no one to help you. You had very little knowledge of the workings going in America at the time. The list is very long. The list is very long as to why you should not even come to the West at such an advanced age. Anyone else would have not even attempted this endeavor and would have given up in just a few short months. But faith can move a mountain, and your faith moved many mountains of contaminated hearts, mired in material nescience and sense gratification. The entire society was working to legally promote, the entire society is working to legally promote all illicit activities on massive scales by popular vote. The meat industry has people still believing that they need its protein. Illicit sex is encouraged from early youth to beyond old age. Gambling has spread exponentially with lotteries, casinos, etc. And the intoxication industry has become extremely intensified. But with the most firm faith in your spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Sri Srimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada, you were completely convinced beyond the slightest doubt that Krishna consciousness would spread even amongst the most fallen hippies. And it did. And because we followed strictly, we were able and empowered to help you spread this wonderful Krishna consciousness. By your mercy, we now have so many beautiful literatures that lend tremendous credibility to the Krishna Consciousness Society. We have many beautiful temples. We have very ecstatic kirtans at very wonderful temple programs. And we have the most sumptuous prasadam. By your mercy, and if we strictly follow your instructions, we should be able to carry the torch of Krishna consciousness as you wished for it to be carried. And you were convinced that if anyone would simply lend an inquisitive ear to this most wonderful philosophy, we must also develop, if they would lend an inquisitive ear to this most wonderful philosophy, they would be convinced of Krishna consciousness. And we must also develop that same mood. We must understand that people's souls are in desperate need of Krishna consciousness. Thanking you not just by words, but also by action, to preach as you did until your very last breath. And in this way, we repay at least to some degree my obligation and indebtedness for your kindness in untiringly spreading Krishna consciousness. In this way we pray you will live forever. Your aspiring servant, Govinda Datta Das. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Govinda Datta. Our next speaker will be Krishna Murari Das. Hare Krishna.
I am reminded today of an event 10 years ago. I guess I'll just convey a small story of that in context, but throughout my life, growing up in this community, being raised from my childhood to offer my pranams to Srila Prabhupada to when I woke up and before going to bed and various things, and the particular family that I was born to, trying to understand what is my relationship to Srila Prabhupada. And my path of trying to understand that. Had both ups and downs and side-to-side journeys, and I'm still hoping to remain attentive to understand that. But 10 years ago today, on Srila Prabhupada's Disappearance Day, I had there was a sort of kinetic moment that gave a certain quality of clarity that impacted my life. I thought to share that with you, because I don't know if I've shared that publicly in this community. But I was in Vrindavan. I had sought shelter of my spiritual master, and then something happened, and there became some distance. And I woke up to this day. I was, for convenience purposes, staying in a Gaudiya Mat temple, and they were having a program honoring Srila Prabhupada, and I went first to attend that, and though they were speaking nicely, there was a distance, sort of, honoring someone who was not, didn't feel as at home. Then I went to Krishna Balara Mandir, and there was a long queue to offer abhishek or something, and it just again felt sort of on such mass scale that by necessity the intimacy that I was seeking, it didn't feel present. And then there's a small program that happens at Govardhan, at the Govardhan Palace, under the oversight of His Holiness Vaisheshika Prabhu, and somehow managed to go there. And I felt the type of intimacy that I was feeling in need of at that particular time in my life. And at the time of Pushpanjali, I was feeling a bit despondent and unsure of what to do, and wasn't paying attention, I guess. And I noticed all the devotees had flowers to offer to Srila Prabhupada, but I didn't. And I couldn't find the devotee who was distributing them. And I was looking around, and in my sort of increased anxiety that I'll have nothing to offer to Srila Prabhupada, I was looking around, and I kind of literally bumped into Jayadvaita Swami, who was also at the program. And I thought, he'll get flowers somehow. So I started following him, which I think is already following in the footsteps of more advanced devotees. And but then he was absorbed into the crowd, and I lost sight, and no flowers still. And at that time, my Guru Maharaj had noticed me there and called me over, and had a large mound of flowers in his hands. And he separated out half and placed them into my hands, and then fished through it and found there was like one jasmine, and he placed that delicately on top. And then I went to move away so as to not crowd. It was all senior devotees in the particular area where I was, and he grabbed onto my kurta sleeve so that I couldn't leave, and I remained there by his side. And then we offered Pushpanjali, and somehow in that moment, as we were offering flowers, this whole tangle, which had plagued me for years in cloudiness as to what is my relationship to Srila Prabhupada, what is my relationship to his disciples, how will I find a guru, or how does that all work? It became clear somehow, in that I didn't have flowers independently. My Guru Maharaj, by dint of his service to Srila Prabhupada, had flowers to offer. And he gave me some of his flowers, which then, relationship-wise, I was simultaneously assisting him in his service to Srila Prabhupada, and I was making my own offering. And it wasn't a this or that scenario. Both occurred naturally, and simultaneously, and spontaneously. And a huge weight fell from my heart, and then it was clear what was needed to be done, and a few days later, then I was able to formally be accepted into the Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And in a few days also marks my initiation day. But this was that moment that had 10 years ago today, was that moment which somehow that torchlight of knowledge in a manner which I could understand. It required sort of analogy. But I want to thank Srila Prabhupada for the relationships which he has facilitated under his care, that you managed to communicate through your purports, through your devotees, through your hours and hours and hours of lectures, room conversations, kirtans, that you had the foresight to create a means by which people can connect to you, both through your teachings and audio, and also through your devotees. So, thank you, Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Krishna Mahaprabhu. Our next speaker will be Bhargavadas, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who had a lot of association with Prabhupada. And we look forward to hearing what he has to say.
So I was very fortunate. I got to travel with Prabhupada in many places, in Europe, in India, and Africa. And I'll try to relate some of the things that I learned that'll help you in your spiritual life. And one of the first instances was, well, I was already photographing Prabhupada on walks, but we were in London, and I was going to go back to work on the press. And I said, I went into Prabhupada's room. You want a little attention. It's like from your daddy, right? And your lack of maturity. So I went in, Prabhupada, I said, I'm leaving to go back to work on the press. We're going back to New York to work on the press. And Prabhupada said, you are leaving? But he meant it. And it really touched me. And then he got up and he took his garland and walked across the room and put his garland on me. So I bowed down. And at that moment, I was realizing the wonderful gifts that he was giving to the world. This deep understanding of who God is, what the spiritual world is like. That God is fun and beautiful, what to speak of goddess. So when I bowed down, it was with deep respect, because I knew he was giving these gifts. And I said, Prabhupada, I'm such a fool. He said, that is good. He said, you remain a fool all your life. Gave me an instruction I could follow. And he said, Lord Chaitanya, do you know what his guru said to him? And somehow someone was taking control. And I said, well, his guru said he was too foolish to understand Vedanta. He said, just chant Hare Krishna. And the intimacy was so great, I had to practically crawl out of the room. But a deep understanding of his greatness. Now, things that were practical were, we were on a walk in Paris, and Prabhupada turned and faced the devotees, and he said, I want you all to become Krishna-conscious philosophers and defeat these rascal scientists and philosophers. Well, we all kind of grew up thinking the scientists are the saviors of the world. And there are sincere philosophers and sincere scientists, but there are also demoniac ones. And to give an example, I was going to be a history major in the university. And Adolf Hitler was a great proponent of Darwin, survival of the fittest. You are weak, put you down. Make space for the strong. He was a great proponent of eugenics, which is judging bodies on physical bodily concepts. The size of the head, the size of this bogus science. It was thrown out by legitimate science later on. But this is what bad science could produce, the Nazis. So Prabhupada spoke up about the truth of those things. So later on, though, I asked him, I said, Prabhupada, these scientists are so strongly entrenched. How will we ever change them? And he looked at me and he said, whether they change, whether they do not change, still I will go on with my propaganda work. It was Kurukshetra. It was Krishna drive my chariot. I don't care if there's more men on the other side, which was the reality of the Mahabharata. The Pandavas were outnumbered. Krishna drive my chariot. That was Prabhupada. And sometimes he'd have some fun with the devotees. We're on a walk in Nairobi. And usually the walks were very quiet. We didn't want to disturb Prabhupada so much. The only one who could get away with that was Rebharinanda. He had an IQ of 172. He was a member of Mensa. He was the cousin of Vishnu Janaswamy. And he could ask questions, and Prabhupada knew. He kind of had the right to ask those kind of questions. Anyway, so we were pretty quiet on the walk, and Prabhupada suddenly says, turned his face to the devotees and said, but you know, I like alcohol. And I kind of shocked the devotees. But he was trying to engage them. He said, okay, preach to me about it, this stuff. The devotees were so stunned by the question, they couldn't do anything. In New York, there was a lady who came to do an article on the devotees. She had a beautiful new Nikon camera. I was just using equipment, donated equipment. We were very poor in those days. And she loved Sankirtan. She had a crush on one of the devotees, Poetic, who sung like an angel. And she loved Sankirtan and loved going out. And then she wrote her article. And in the article, she said, yeah, but there was this one devotee who was more interested in my camera than in me. So straight away it comes up to me and assumes it's me. And I didn't lust over equipment so much, you know, and I remember talking to her briefly. But I still felt guilty. Like a lot of Catholics and Jews, it's kind of built in. And we were coming back from a walk in St. James Park in London. And I said, Prabhupada, sometimes I preach nicely and sometimes I don't. If the person is sincere, will they still come to Krishna? And he said, yes. And then he gave a multi-level answer. One of the Prabhus there asked about, you know, innovative preaching in a sense. So he gave a direct answer. Yeah, sincerity basically is the unstoppable force in spiritual life. Krishna knows the heart. He knows if you're really sincere, even if you make mistakes, you'll guaranteed success in the end. But so Prabhupada answered it different ways. So he answered it yes. Then he explained why we make mistakes. And he gave the simile about the pond, that when the senses become agitated, it's like the pond water becoming agitated, and therefore the sand comes up into the water and clouds the water. So when the senses become agitated, the intelligence becomes clouded. So he answered it on that level, why we make mistakes. Then he went even deeper, and he gave me something that was very useful for my own service, and it might be useful for your services too. And he said, so there are two kinds of siddhi, perfections. He said, sometimes someone follows all the rules and regulations of devotional service, and by the mercy of Krishna, he may become perfect. And he said, sometimes someone's not able to follow all the rules and regulations of devotional service, but he has an overwhelming desire to perform some great service for Krishna. and by the mercy of Krishna, he may also become perfect. And he gave the example of Clive of India. Clive of India, he worked for the British East India Company, came to India as a ship's cabin boy. And then he began working for the company, and then he was very expert in diplomacy and in the military. And he was able to begin bringing pieces of India under the control of the British East India Company. And because of that, the Crown recognized him and gave him a lordship, knighted him. So he gave that example of someone doing some great service. Of course, British East India Company was the first multinational company that was ripping off the poor people of the world. But Prabhupada used it as an example. So you were asking about, adding things to traditional preaching. And Prabhupada would do stuff like that. Let's see, there was the last time I saw Prabhupada, he was already sick. It was like January, February of the year he passed. And then later on, I was sent by the BBT to photograph all over South America for the Spanish BBT and English BBT. So when he finally passed, I was in Brazil. And I guess it was mercy, because I don't think I would have been able to stand seeing Prabhupada's body in that degenerate position. But when I did see him last, Taran Kanti Ghosh came to see Prabhupada. He was the equivalent of the lieutenant governor of Bengal. His grandfather had been a great freedom fighter. And he told Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, I just came from Rajneesh's ashram. He said, you're the only one preaching the pure Dharma of India. And then he said, I come to get your blessings in the election. Prabhupada said, oh, democracy is no good. And it kind of stunned him. And he caught himself and he said, well, democracy with so many political parties. And Prabhupada said, no, democracy is no good. In the end, Taran put his head on Prabhupada's lap, and you saw it in the picture there. There was some Indian man who's getting his head rubbed by Prabhupada. That was Taran Kanti Ghosh. And it was just like a little boy, just like a little boy with Prabhupada. His grandfather was a very great devotee. His name was Sushir Kumar Ghosh, and he was the one who gave Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the title of the seventh Goswami. He had been very politically active in the Quit India movement. And his brother said, you're going to get tired of all this politics. You should be more involved in spiritual life. But he ignored him. But his brother's prophecy came true, and he finally thought, there's something missing. And he ordered a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When it was placed in his hands, he began shaking. And he became a very rich devotee and did a lot of writing in English. He formed the Amrit Bazar Patrika, the first English language newspaper in Bengal. And he became a great devotee. If you go to Vrindavan, you see that big wooden Lord Chaitanya near Gopinath Bazaar. That was his deity. So he had quite a transformation. And that was his grandson or great-grandson, I forget which it was. I think it was grandson, who was Taran Kanti Ghosh. And, but Prabhupada wanted everyone to love Krishna. He was once asked, I wasn't present, but I heard he was once asked, how come you don't go down the road more often? Because that's where Bhaktisiddhanta's Samadhi is. And he said, why should I? He said, my Guru Maharaj is sitting here right next to me. Another instance was Jadharani asked me to ask Prabhupada if he was, she asked me to ask him if he was present in his pictures. And his answer was, if you think of me, then I'm there. Then there was always some suspicion that, maybe the secretaries were writing their own answers to questions to Prabhupada. So I asked Prabhupada, do you read your letters before they go out? And his answer was, He had some letters on his desk and he started looking at them. That was his answer. He didn't give a verbal reply. Let's see what else I can remember. He really didn't like me being photographed very much. He had told poor Gurudas. Gurudas and Shamsuna had such beautiful relations with Prabhupada. And but Gurudas, you get a little snap happy when you're taking pictures, especially when you're young. You got a lot of testosterone going through. So Prabhupada wasn't that interested in being photographed. Gurudas was photographing him a lot. So he said, the photograph, you know, if somebody takes your photograph, it shortens your life. Almost done? Okay, the big hook is coming out. So I'll just finish this quick story. So he said, yeah, getting photographed shortens your life. So I asked Prabhupada about that because I was feeling really guilty. And Prabhupada's answer was, oh, I just said that because he was taking too many pictures. So Prabhupada can have a pretty rough sense of humor sometimes. But the whole thing was not about us becoming Brahmins, sannyasis, any of these things. It's about loving Krishna. That was the bottom line, and that's why he brought the Krishna book and all the other books. And he didn't, and that was his brilliance, his honesty, and his purity, that he brought the source literature. Other gurus would come and they give a little bit of knowledge like a worm on a hook. But Prabhupada gave the source literature, and that was his purity. And I don't pray to Prabhupada. I see him going back to Godhead, playing with Krishna. And I'm happy he's playing with Krishna. I don't want to bring him back to this terrible place. So I think of him in the spiritual world. And whatever's going to happen, Krishna's protecting me. And he has protected me. And so just one more thing about following this process. Over time, Krishna will reveal himself in little ways. You get these descents of grace. Not when you want them, when Krishna wants to give them, because he's impressed with you by your service and by your attitude towards other devotees. But they will come. I guarantee that. They will come. And that's the only thing I can tell you. Just be happy. Haribol, thank you.
I will. Yeah. We're just starting. I wrote this in November of 2019, and I kind of put it aside and never presented it formally, so this will be the first time I'm reading it before Srila Prabhupada and the assembled devotees. It's called Srila Prabhupada Vapu. So we know that that the Vani is the more important aspect of the spiritual master. And Prabhupada has emphasized this and stated it many times. He's even said that physical presence is not so important. However, we do know that those of us who had the great fortune of seeing Srila Prabhupada, being in his presence and serving him while he was present on the planet, that physical appearance was something very special. So I wanted to try and encapsulate that in a few verses. And I added one recently, so that's, I think, why Krishna held us back, because it's kind of important. Anyway, this isn't too long, so don't worry. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, whose feet harbor despairing multitudes grappling with the incessant tribulations of life on the planet of death, whose legs traverse the countries and continents of the world to plant the seed of devotion within hearts long fallow, whose stride is swift, undaunted, and triumphant as he repossesses the lands and properties plundered from the transcendental autocrat, whose fingers caress Japamala, marking infinite millions of times he has uttered the Radha Krishna mantra with love unparalleled, whose hand pens the manuscripts and missives that redirect souls evicted from the land of no anxiety, whose arms spontaneously rise to the heavens upon the beating of mridungas, the ringing of kartals, and the resounding glory of the great chanting for deliverance, whose heart is a wellspring of compassion, the asana of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and the residence of preeminent divinity, the coward girl Radha and her coward boy Krishna, whose neck is encircled with tulsi mala, sacred thread, and 1,000 floral wreaths, strung with devout attention by adoring disciples, whose eyes, aglow with love for Krishna and all of his expansions, both Sphangsa and Vibhinangsa, gaze at the world with salvatory grace, whose ears, ever chaste, admit only Krishna Katha, whose smile illuminates the world, imbues the faithful with life, captivates the faithless, and shatters hearts of stone, whose tongue is in perpetual motion, chanting, singing, and discoursing on the pastimes and precepts of Sri Krishna and Sri Krishna Chaitanya, whose words inform those in darkness, enlighten the burdened, and ignite spiritual revolutions, whose voice, infused with transcendent emotion, resonates with variant expressions of Krishna prema, whose head bobs side to side in ascent, sways side to side with the rhythm of kirtan, is held high with aristocratic perfection and bowed low with consummate humility, whose body, bronze and beautiful, liberates sandalwood forests, is adorned with the chandan markings of Vishnu and glistens with the ecstasy of one deeply embedded in Krishna's Leela, whose image has graced 1,000,000 mastheads, been cast on gold medallions and branded in the hearts of allegiance souls, whose endeavor is to retrieve every spirit spark within the 3 realms, and whose mercy is available to all, even one like me. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.
Thank you, His Grace Prabhupada Prabhu, for allowing me to speak. And to the Assembly of Senior Vaishnava devotees, and being in the presence of Srila Prabhupada's disciples and all the wonderful devotees in here, and brahmacharis and initiated disciples. Yeah, I didn't have anything too prepared. I just wanted to share my gratitude for being in New Dwarka Dham, to be able to see the Rukmini Dwarkadish every day and be engaged in some menial service. You know, I was just meditating on how when I first came to Krishna consciousness and experienced it 10 years ago, I just thought it was very intense. You know, I remember being in Kenya at the temple, and there was like posters like, distribute my books, and everyone was like, you know, chanting really intensely, and I was like walking in and just like bewildered. But being on the other side of that and realizing that by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books and being engaged in whatever service in the temple, there's a sense of Srila Prabhupada being present amongst us and with us out there and preaching and directing us. And so it's made me realize that he wants to be here with us and continue to spread Krishna consciousness and serve the deities. And it's really amazing that even though he could be, transcendently situated in Krishna's spiritual abode, and basically just hand off everything to us and just let us be, it still feels like he's constantly checking in on us and wanting to be here with us despite the difficulties of Kali Yuga. And hopefully we can all go back and celebrate together in the spiritual world with Srila Prabhupada face to face. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for giving me your shelter and allowing me to engage in this service of Krishna, even though I have no qualification for such service. You're very kind to allow so many people to come and experience the bliss of serving you and serving Krishna directly. One time my spiritual master told me while I was going through some difficulty feeling alone that actually I'm never alone, that you are always with me, Srila Prabhupada, and all of the previous acharyas are always with us at every single moment. But unfortunately I'm not able to see that. Sometimes I do feel alone, sometimes I do feel these feelings, but please bless me that one day I may be actually able to realize that you're always here at every moment, guiding me. Thank you very much for giving me your shelter. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you for letting me come up and speak, Prabhupada Prabhu, and for all the assembled Vaishnava devotees here, dear Prabhus and mothers who are listening. Srila Prabhupada is definitely made a great impact on my life. I remember just like a few years ago that I was struggling very much with the idea that life is very meaningless, and that I was just looking for meaning, and that the whole material world, it seems like a meaningless struggle for existence. That I had no conception of who God was, what it actually means to be liberated, who I am as a spiritual being. I had no conception of who what my actual identity was, who God is, or the actual nature of reality. So just coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada, his devotees, and in his books, that this great anxiety has been lifted, that I can actually understand Krishna's God, I'm a soul, I'm his servant, and this material world isn't the right place to be. I think it seems very simple, but it was very tremendous. I think that if I didn't come in contact with this philosophy, then I'd be in the same deep, dark pit of ignorance and suffering. So thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada, for writing these books and pulling me out and hosing me off from a distance.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you, most beautiful and loving spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada, you have given us all such an opportunity to love and serve your divine grace. We thank you with all our heart. Your shining example of serving Lord Krishna with every breath and every step is why we, all over the world, are inspired to be always in your association. I am so grateful for all that you have given us. Therefore, I am internally crying buckets and buckets of tears, hoping and wishing to reciprocate with your kindness and begging to be your sincere servant eternally. Your servant, Jagajanani Dasi.
Hare Krishna. I didn't plan to speak, but, and I hope I can get through this without crying, but I would just like to say that it's so inspiring to see all the new devotees, to see all the new bhaktas and the bhaktins, and to see how they are, how you are as enthusiastic as we were. And the other day, my husband and I were riding by on the bike, and we saw some devotees out distributing books. New Bhakta, it was Bhakta Ian, Evan. That's what I was going to say, Evan. And it was just amazing, you know, to see that the process just goes on and on like this. It's just really wonderful. And I just like you to know that to do as much as you can, as much service as you possibly can when you're really young, and be as enthusiastic about it as you can, because it is, this is like the most perfect time of your lives. And Srila Prabhupada must be so pleased with you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity to speak about Srila Prabhupada's mercy upon me. I came across Srila Prabhupada's books in 1982 when I was around 15 years old, I think. I was still at school. And when I read the first book, Beyond Birth and Death, I was getting back to Godhead and stuff, but I was not taking it seriously. But when I started asking questions and then somebody handed me this book, I read it at one go and it just cleared my mind. Like it's like a cloud moved out of my mind, where I could see myself, Prabhupada saying that, you know, I'm a spirit soul, I'm not this body, shouldn't be scared of death. And since I was still at school, we were encouraged to have pen pals from other countries. So when I became devotee, I thought, why not a Krishna conscious pen pal? So I saw a BTG magazine about the Gurukuls, and I wrote to the Minister of Education and sent me one devotee's address so I could correspond with her. And she was helping her Guru Maharaj publishing the Prabhupada Ilamrita. So she sent me this copy, Planting the Seed. And when I read that book, I became totally attached to Srila Prabhupada. I was feeling so sad that I couldn't meet him, and I was calculating the years, how old I was when he left this planet, or how old I was when he came to Mauritius. And I was thinking, I should have been like 10 something. And I was thinking, I could have met him, I could have seen him, but I was feeling so much separation. But Prabhupada, he knew he's in our hearts. He was coming to my dreams. And I used to have, ask him questions in my dreams. You know, questions like, where is this, how does this creation come from? And he will tell me from the breathing of Lord Vishnu. And there are so many different dreams that I was having of Srila Prabhupada, which kind of stopped when I joined full time, when I joined the temple after a few years. But one of the last ones I had was, because in the back of my mind, I was always having this feeling, why did Srila Prabhupada leave? Why I couldn't meet him, you know? So I had this dream after I got initiated by my Guru Maharaj. I had this dream that he came back, and we were like in this room full of devotees, and all the devotees were happy and laughing because Srila Prabhupada came back. And we just had a book distribution marathon, and Prabhupada was handing over signed copies of his Bhagavad Gita to those who did very well on book distribution. But I didn't do that good. But still, I had a copy and wanted him to sign it. So I went up to him, and I gave him. He said, "Oh, what's your name?" I said, "Krishnangi Dasi." "Who is your Guru Maharaj, Giriraj Swami?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Very nice." And then my dream broke. So that was one of the last dreams where he kind of confirmed my initiation with my Guru Maharaj. And recently, I've been reading Prabhupada Lilamrita in a group of devotees on Zoom. And I'm simply like amazed at Srila Prabhupada's determination to preach Krishna consciousness in India, how he was trying many different ways to spread Krishna consciousness. He created the League of Devotees, didn't work. He got an offer to go to Japan to do a presentation. It didn't work. And he tried many things. It didn't work, but still he never gave up. He never said, "Oh, it's not working. I should just give up this idea of preaching Krishna consciousness." And in my mind, I was thinking, what is it that made Srila Prabhupada just keep going and going and going, and his advanced age and everything. And I was thinking it's his complete faith in the instructions of his Guru Maharaj. His Guru Maharaj just kept pushing him, he kept going and going despite all the difficulties and all the obstacles, even after he came to America. So I'm very, very, very grateful that Srila Prabhupada came to this planet, and what would have been our situation if he didn't come. And now we are living in the Association of Devotees. I'm so grateful to be here in Srila Prabhupada's temple and serving, and a place where he spent a lot of time here, and I feel very grateful. Okay, thank you very much.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Gaur Govinda Swami Tinamine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyamari Paschatyai Satarine. Srila Prabhupada, I am your grand disciple. And I want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to participate in the Sankirtan movement. I would like to give some report or some exchanges that I've been having sometimes with some of these conditioned souls, and I hope I can keep having these interesting exchanges and in the devotional service that I'm trying to assist. So one time, this is a long time ago, but I meant to tell you this. I was distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, and this particular person, he said, I know what you have in your hands. It looks very, very important to you. I can see. I've been watching you. I've been seeing. So can you please tell me? And do not worry. I know you're collecting donations. I will give you. I remunerate properly. So I agree. And very gladly I start explaining about the Srimad Bhagavatam as best as I could. So finally, after 2 weeks, somebody called, and at that time, somehow I couldn't get in touch with this person, and the wife of this particular person was calling. And she called twice, and she couldn't find me. The third time, I got in touch with her. And this lady, she was worried for her husband. She said, I am about to send my husband to the psychiatrist. And first of all, she said, are you Mahaprabhu? I used to have the name Mahaprabhu Das. I said, yes. She said, well, my husband, I said, well, what's the problem? Can you please tell me? My husband, after getting that book from you, all he does is Srimad Bhagavatam, and then calling a name, Mahaprabhu. And then he stands up at night and claps his hands and laughs and bumbles some words that is like so weird. I had to send him to the psychiatrist. I said, no, hold on. That's not what you're thinking about. Please let me explain to you. So I gave her a long talk, and then after some time she became pacified. But many other things happened after that, of course. But I just want to tell you, Srila Prabhupada, that it's so rewarding your service, especially in Sankirtan, when you meet those people and you have those exchanges and you see the transformation right in front of your hand, in front of you. And another time, there was this particular girl who, while distributing the books in a college, she said, because I asked her, what's your name? She said, my name is Krishna. And I thought, oh. But usually, this in a Hindu community, it's normal, but to have the name. But this was a Caucasian girl, and I thought, well, how do you get that name? And then she explained me. She said that while her mother was in her youth, she was visiting all these religious groups, and one time she bumped into Hare Krishna group. And then I said, oh, I see, that explains. So, but how do you get the name? And then she said that her mother, she got pregnant, and then at one point, it was so dangerous. There was a complication. She went to the doctor, and she said, well, there's only two choices. Either your baby will survive or you die. One of you, but not both of you. Something like she has to make a decision, which was very difficult for her. Obviously, the mother wants to have the baby, and she doesn't want to die either. So what she did, she started chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And she was intensely praying. And then after that, somehow or other, by miracle, she says, that's me. My mother named me Krishna. So I said, that's wonderful. Another time, Srila Prabhupada, I met this particular person. I was distributing these books, and then suddenly this person says, I don't want any books. And I said, okay. And then he walks, and then he says, wait a minute. He came back. He looked at the book. He says, oh, no, I'm sorry. I take it back. He said, the only book I read is a Krishna book. And I said, oh, that's fine. That's exactly what I have here. I have a lot of Krishna books. He says, no, but this is the real book. I don't read any other book. But then after he said, oh, so you're the same author. Yeah, the same author. He said, okay, so I want more books. So he was like so, how can I say that, so determined that any other book will be like not interesting to him, but your books, Krishna book, and any other books from you, Srila Prabhupada, he was interested. In another occasion, my father, who by the way left his body here in New Dwarka, he used to read your book, The Science of Self-Realization. And while he was at the forest one time alone, two men came and asked him, excuse me, sir, what are you reading? And my father showed, in your cover, Srila Prabhupada, your picture is there. And then they say, oh, he said, I seen this man. I have read his books. Please keep reading that book. He was encouraging my father to read that book. And he was relating to my father, that he was trying to be a priest, but somehow or other, the illusory energy took him away. But he was acknowledging your books as a really good books. So my father got more encouraged and kept reading that book. So such is the power of your books, Srila Prabhupada. My whole family, I can say part of my family, became attracted through your books, through the process. And just like any other Sankirtan devotee, I could be sitting here telling hundreds of stories, but I just want to thank you very much for allowing me to doing this service, and hopefully I can bring more people to the Krishna conscious family through your books. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gaura Vani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paksha Sthyade Satarine. I see Sachitananda Prabhu speaking like he's talking to Srila Prabhupada, and actually make me more conscious that actually we are talking to Srila Prabhupada, like he's here. And I would like to share to our Srila Prabhupada. I didn't prepare, but I would like to acknowledge that everything, at least I have, or everything that I am, I owe everything to Srila Prabhupada. When I was a kid, I was born in a Catholic Christian tradition, and I had so many questions about God. And I was very into getting my questions answered, but I couldn't get the right answers. And then I became Mormon because I somehow already got captivated by the Mormon tradition. And the same, I had so many questions, especially I was leaning to like Asian or Vedic tradition, I guess, because I had very strong belief in reincarnation, karma, but I wasn't getting the appropriate answers. I remember I was told, you're a good kid, but those are evil thoughts. They will go away. Just keep practicing, Don't go so deep into those subjects because that's also evil. The Satan comes in that way to take away from the path. And I was like, no, it couldn't be like that, you know? Anyway, finally, I got in touch with Prabhupada's books, with you, Prabhupada, with your book. The was meditation and meditation, the title, the small book. And I was so impressed. Actually, no, Perfection of Yoga, sorry. And I was so impressed, and everything was so clear. Like we are not this body, we are souls, that we have a connection with God, the super soul, that the goal of life is to go back home, back to Godhead, that we shouldn't live like dogs and cats, like Prabhupada speaks very strongly in his books, just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. I was like, wow. And then Prabhupada said, someone who doesn't get to the human platform of following at least these 4 principles is not different than an animal. And I was like, wow, this makes sense. And actually that book changed my life, right? I got so attracted to your movement, and I love your movement. I love your devotees. I love ISKCON. I remember in 1996, I was very new devotee. And I wasn't able to participate in the Prabhupada Centennial. I remember that year, the Prabhupada Centennial was being celebrated very, very humongous, you know, like many different petals were offered to Prabhupada. I remember, like the lotus flower has many petals, and each petal was some offering to Prabhupada, like, you know, the congregational department, like Sankirtan, this and that. And for that particular year celebration, I wasn't able to participate because I was sent to a traveling Sankirtan by myself. I was all alone by myself. And I was so sad that everybody was celebrating the Prabhupada Centennial, and I was just traveling by myself, doing books. And I was so emotional that at that moment in my neophyte stage, I was like, I want to actually do something for Prabhupada. And I got Prabhupada's Lotus logo Centennial tattoo in my arm. That was, at that moment, I was like, wow, at least to have the remembrance, like I had Prabhupada's logo Centennial here in my arm, you know? I love your ISKCON, I love your devotees, I love this, everything, and there is some things that I don't like. I don't like when devotees criticize ISKCON. I don't know, I'm the way how I am. I don't like that. I don't like when your devotees are attacked, also Prabhupada. And even though I'm very neophyte, and I have so many anarthas, but somehow or other I want to express my gratitude and that you have engaged me in service in this movement, and I have hope that one day I will join you, as you said. We will have our ISKCON in the spiritual world. Thank you.
So I don't have anything prepared, but because Pavani spoke and I became very enlivened, and when she mentioned these Bhakta boys that are so encouraging, I felt the same way, but I'm not going to cry. Yeah, I'm really encouraged by these boys that are coming, and they're the next generation coming in because we're all pooping out. But Krishna is arranging a whole nother army to take over, and it's very encouraging. I do want to speak about the time Prabhupada passed, that time in 1977. I hope I don't cry. Okay, so I was here in 1977, and I was in this temple in LA, and we were told that Prabhupada was ill. But we had been told that Prabhupada was ill for a while, and we had 24-hour kirtan going on. But none of us really, there was no reality to it that Prabhupada was actually going to leave us. We were your age, young, and so immature in our Krishna consciousness that there was there's no possible way that we could actually carry on, I thought, because everything we did, Prabhupada arranged. He was the commander-in-chief. Because of him, we all did whatever service we did. It was because we did it for Prabhupada, because we love Prabhupada. So it was a movement of love. We loved Prabhupada. Wherever Prabhupada was, we wanted to be there. So when you're beloved, wherever your beloved is, you want to be with your beloved. So that's how it was for all of us at that time. So the thought of Prabhupada leaving the planet was unheard of. It was like, no, that can't happen. So even though we knew he was ill, still there was no reality, and we tried, to imagine life without him, and it was impossible. So actually, when we found out, I could talk for myself. I became like almost like a zombie. Like the world came to an end. It was dark, black. It all stopped. And I don't know, I'm sure we all kind of, I don't know. I didn't come to reality about it until 20 years later, when I came back to the LA temple and I walked up those stairs to Prabhupada's room, and then I realized Prabhupada is not coming back to this temple. Prabhupada spent a lot of time in LA, like 3 months at a time. He did a lot of his translations. He had a wonderful apartment upstairs. I'm sure you've all seen it. So there was a lot going on. There was the press, the artists were here. It was the hub. It was the center. The temple room was packed. The women couldn't even fit in the temple room. We were always up on the balcony with the kids. And Prabhupada would enter the temple room, and he would pay his obeisances to the deities, and then he would look up because he knew we were there, and he knew we wanted his association, because that's how we were surviving. That was our food, our survival. We had no other survival at that time. Anyway, I just want to thank everybody, all the devotees here who are keeping this temple together. Everyone that I see right now is so involved in bringing this temple to its glory. Prabhupada started it with his blood. He bought all these buildings. His money. Everything that you see was Prabhupada's blood. We had nothing in the beginning. We couldn't even buy flowers. We had to beg for flowers in the flower market or food. So everything has come such a long way, and all these great pioneers that I'm looking at that started, who were so dedicated to Prabhupada and who's still here, and the next generation who are coming in. And I just want to say how grateful I am to Prabhupada for his potency, and that he's still here, and he's still running the show. And this is his temple. So, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Haribol. First of all, I want to also express my gratitude to be here in Los Angeles because Srila Prabhupada, he spent so many time in this place and this temple. And there's so many nice devotees. They used to live here and they live also right now. And it came in my mind then what Mataji just said, that Prabhupada is still here. He is actually there. He can allow us to see that and he's still there. He's still in his books. So there is statement, if you read very carefully Srila Prabhupada books, then he can be in our heart. He can give us different realization and intelligence. And also, he's one of the greatest acharya for all time. And he's one of actually predicted general, I believe, firmly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, and he will come. And he showed that by his life. And so I just, to glorify Prabhupada, I want to say something about myself. I was born in very, definitely, I didn't know before, but very degraded family. And I did very degraded things in my life, all for regulatory principle. I didn't follow. I was engaged very sternly in those activities. And still, you know, we are made of, Bhagavad Gita is explained, we are made of this gross body and subtle body, mind, intelligence, false ego. So externally we can surrender our body to the mission, but internally it's not easy to surrender our mind, our intelligence, and our false ego. There is statement that in general in Kali Yuga, people pretty not so much intelligent. They are mostly on a mental platform. They are emotional. Book distributor, they know that when you approach somebody, you just try to be a little bit friendly with them, a little bit emotional, praise them, and they like you. They took the book because it's my service. But that mind, what we possess, and intelligence and false ego should be engaged in a much, much deeper level to really come to the higher stage of Krishna consciousness, to really develop love of God. And to do that, we should really realize then, I speak to myself, then this really war against material energy. And in any moment, all of us, even if you are many years in Krishna consciousness, what I'm saying that because it's also glorification of Prabhupada, if you are many years in Krishna consciousness, in any moment we can fall down and literally fall down, go away, or fall down to from higher stage what we are inspiring for. But we should never give up, no matter what. Even if I was born in a very degraded family, you know, even if somebody is born in India, what is considered a very pious birth, still, if he is not completely pure devotee, it doesn't matter where you are, still Maya is so strong that everybody can fall down in any moment from pure devotional service. I just want to say one very story, what I just recently hear. There was one Mataji Prabhupada disciple, and she was living in Radhakund, and she, in one point of time, she decided actually just to stay there and chant Hare Krishna and live on Radhakund. And and she met one Babaji. She was Prabhupada disciple, okay? She's still alive. So she met Prabhupada, she met one Babaji who told her, okay, I'll give you some mantra, just chant this mantra and think always about Radha Kund, Radharani, and you'll be okay. And she started to follow that. She started to, be like Babaji. So one point of time, actually, Srila Prabhupada came in her dream, and he said, let's go. She took her with her hand, and there's a few more devotees, and they start to go outside of Krishna Balaram temple. They start to go to Vrindavan, and they come to, okay, they were already in Vrindavan. They came to Radha Kund, and because it's dream, they start to go deeply into actually on the bottom of Radha Kund. And she was completely trembling, and she was in fear. And at that moment, she saw actually Prabhupada. Actually, she saw some big, huge. By the way, actually, it's explained that somebody who has this kind of dream is not different from Krishna. Really, Krishna give you that kind of mercy. Or if you have dream about spiritual master or other devotees or Prabhupada. So anyway, and there was big, huge temple with so many. There is, what I read. There is explained hair books, like these Krishna's books, Radharani books. Anyway, and there are so many, and Prabhupada was very enthusiastically distributing these books to so many conditioned souls around him. And they were just mowing, they were saying, to me, to me. So anyway, and after that he turned to her and he said, I cannot repeat exactly, but anyway, he said, Prabhupada said, what you're doing, something like that, can you be grateful, what I give to you, there is these books here, and, and did you know, then heart of those books is Radharani's books, Krishna's books. And the heart of this mission is actually Radharani's mission. So if you really want to satisfy me, you should distribute these books and the rest of your life to your last breath. Because this is my service. Still, I'm very grateful to get this service. And I ask everybody to give me this mercy, then I can continue doing this service. So point is then, you don't need to live in Radha Kund you can be in mind Radha Kund every day, because in nectar devotion is explained, we have to think like that actually. We have to think about this Radha Krishna's pastimes daily. But in meantime, you have to be practical and do our chanting and everything. But this is the point, so we should be very grateful what we are getting from Srila Prabhupada. And it's not really no ordinary books. And we had this experience, we met people on the street, Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm very grateful to everybody here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Like this. Is that good? All right. So I'm going to read my very favorite pastime of Srila Prabhupada. I wasn't there, but you'll see. So this is it's written by Tamal Krishna. So here it is. I came to England in September of 1969, and Srila Prabhupada said that we would open the London temple in December. But at that time, there were no deities. We asked Srila Prabhupada, where are the deities? And Prabhupada said, you have to arrange for the deities. So I said, how are we going to find deities? How can we arrange for the deities? He wanted Radha Krishna deities, but we hardly even knew what deities were at that time. So we were in tremendous anxiety and were constantly searching for the deities. We set up a phone number as a hotline
so that anybody who had any information about deities could call. The date was getting closer. There were no deities, and Prabhupada was determined to open the temple. Prabhupada even made the entire menu for the celebration feast, and he had me make an invitation card. On the card, I wrote that everyone was invited to come and eat prasadam. Prabhupada corrected me. He said, "You don't eat prasadam, you respect prasadam." We printed the menu and invitation card, but still there were no deities. At that time, we were going to different homes of Hindu families and just get a little bit of money at the end, a pound or two at the end. Said it was excruciating to sit for hours in people's homes and at the end of the night come back with only 3 or 4 pounds. Finally, in October or November, someone called our deity hotline and said, "You can find deities in a certain Hindu temple." It's a Hindu center. So Mukunda and I went to that place. The man we met there said, "I do have some deities." We said, "We'd like to see them." He said, "They're over there." We didn't see anything, and then he said, "Under that cloth." So the man went over to the cloth, pulled it up, and there were beautiful Radha Krishna deities there. We were amazed to see these deities, and we immediately bowed down. The man said, "For various reasons, we have no use for these deities." We said, "We have to ask our spiritual master." We went outside, and from a phone booth, we phoned Srila Prabhupada at his apartment on Baker Street next to Regent's Park. Prabhupada was resting at the time, but when he woke up and heard the news, he said, "Take me there at once." Srila Prabhupada took Shyamasundar, Mukunda, and me, Tamal, with him. By that time, it was evening. Prabhupada sat down in the man's sitting room. The man said, "So, Swamiji, are you interested in our deities?" Prabhupada didn't answer him, but he said, "Where are you from? Where's your family from? Let me meet your wife. Let me meet your children." Prabhupada was just speaking with this person. The man paraded his family before Prabhupada. I couldn't understand what Prabhupada was doing. As far as I could see, Prabhupada spent 30 to 45 minutes wasting time talking to the man. The man was eager to pull the cloth off again to show Prabhupada the deities, but Prabhupada had no interest in seeing the deities. Finally, the man said, "Look, are you interested or not?" Prabhupada said, "What is that?" The man said, "In the deities." Prabhupada said, "Let us see the deities." Then the man lifted the cloth up. Prabhupada's face was placid. He didn't react or respond. The man became anxious. "Don't you want these deities? Your disciples said you were looking for deities. Don't you want these deities?" Prabhupada was just looking at them. The man started to encourage Prabhupada. "You should take these deities. You must take these deities." So Prabhupada asked me, Tamal, "See if you can pick up this deity." I went over to Srimati Radharani, tilted her back and picked her up. I said, "She's not that heavy." Then Prabhupada asked Shyamasundar, "See if you can pick up the other deity, Krishna." Shyamasundar picked him up and said, "He's not that heavy." Prabhupada said, "Okay, let's go." We picked up the deities and walked out of the house, and the man said, "Wait, Swamiji, wait." He wanted to discuss the price of the deities, but Prabhupada said, "It's okay, they're not that heavy, we'll be all right." Prabhupada had us put the deities in our van. The man was there with his wife and children, and he was trying to beg Prabhupada to wait and discuss some money for the deities. But we were all in the van, and Prabhupada said, "Drive." We drove 1 or 2 blocks, and then Prabhupada said, Stop the car." We stopped, and Prabhupada said, "Now let me see the deities." So they uncovered the deities, and Prabhupada started to chant the Brahma Samhita prayers to Sri Sri Radha Landanishwara, and he said, "Krishna has appeared." He was so happy. He was so pleased. And Prabhupada did name these deities Radha Landanishwara. Ishwara means controller. So Radha Landanishwara. Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
also blessed to be able to listen to the senior devotees and disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and this is the way we can feel Srila Prabhupada's divine personality more and more. This is one of the greatest treasures that Srila Prabhupada left for us, is the senior devotees and his disciples, who are heroes for us, younger generation. And each one has a great storehouse of memories and impressions and love for Srila Prabhupada that they can share with all of us. So from each personality that we hear from, we're gaining more and more appreciation of the unlimited beauty and majesty of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. So, and I'm just really brimming with gratitude for all of you being here, for Brigupati Prabhu emceeing, Naikatma Prabhu managing, and Prem Sankirtan Prabhu for his preaching and distribution, Sachitanoy Prabhu, all the devotees here, Acharya Narottam, all the wonderful mothers. It's just it's a testament to the greatness of Srila Prabhupada that this project is in the condition it's in. There's so many enlivened souls and so much devotion just pouring from the windows and the doors of the temple. So, and these beautiful deities, this amazing every day, to be able to look into this altar and see the glorious forms of Gaur Nitai, of Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkati, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra Maharani. And of course His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, sitting ever regal on his throne here, attentively served every day by loving devoted servants. It's just like spiritual world. So there's so many things I can say, but if it gets too much, you can just throw something at me or say something. Okay, so once I was in Vrindavan, and I have two spiritual masters. I have my initiating guru, His Grace Sriman Sankar Shandas Adhikari Prabhu, and my Guru Mata, his devoted and very powerful wife. And she told me that she gave a book to, she was distributing books in the 70s. She gave a book to, I forget his name at the time, but now he is known as His Holiness Bhakti Anugraha Janardhan Swami, originally from the Philippines. He lives in Vrindavan. He's been managing in that temple for a number of years. And I went to his quarters to say, my Guru Mata gave you the first book, Maharaj. We have some connection, because I really admire him, his kirtan and the way he does things. So he looked at me, as soon as I said that, he looked very soberly into my face. He said, listen, Srila Prabhupada is making all of us devotees. And I understood that he didn't intend to take away from the glory of my Guru Mata's service, but he wanted to also create an awareness that everything that's happening is by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. He's like the fountainhead of all the transcendental activities and all the preaching in ISKCON. He imparted that spirit to so many disciples, and that seed grew, and he gave birth to so many wonderful personalities. So by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have the association of devotees. He created the association of devotees for us, and which is just a miracle. Once Radhanath Swami was preaching somewhere, I forget where, in India, and there was a gathering of students, and he spoke to them about Krishna consciousness. And then one disciple brought a student up to him after the talk, and he said, this young man, he is the champion in this region on chess. Right? He's a chess champion. And then he said, he has a question for you, Maharaj. So he said, Swamiji, we are here from India. Krishna, we know so much about Krishna, and you are coming from America, from the West, and you're coming here and inspiring us to serve Krishna. How is this possible? And then Radhanath Swami gave a brilliant answer. He said, your Krishna checkmated me. So in the same way, I felt like in my life I was checkmated by Srila Prabhupada. I was, my history's not very interesting, but at one point I was so desperate, I was like really, really looking for answers. I was looking through in so many channels, so many ways. But then at one point, when I realized I was 22 years old, I have to choose a direction in my life, and I realized like I really want to do something meaningful and spiritual, but I don't know what it is. And I was teaching, I had a job, I was a tutor, and I was getting off my job one day, and a devotee, his mother actually is in this community, I believe. His name is Mahabharat Das. He's a disciple of Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He sold me a book, and I went and I started reading that book. I went to like some burrito shop, and I sat down, and I said, oh man, I paid for this book. It's just like how Prabhupada narrates, when people buy his books. Man, I gave that guy, $10, I better see what's in this book, what this guy nonsense, what he wrote. Let's see what he said. And the book it was called Quest for Enlightenment. And I thought, oh, it sounds a little cheesy, but let's look inside and see what it says. And immediately, after just a few lines, I started crying. I lost my hunger, I put aside the food, I took very seriously what was in this book. I had never felt that I'd met a person through writing in such a visceral way as through Srila Prabhupada's words. It was like he knew me better than I know myself. Sometimes I hear disciples of Prabhupada say that when they meet Srila Prabhupada, he was looking deep into their soul and he could see everything about them. So I felt this strange sensation that this person knows me and he's ready to take me. It's like such a mercy, all of a sudden. I had no preparation for that. I had no pious activities. He came and he said, here's your path. And he told about Narada Muni. Narada Muni was telling Vyasadeva that even even if a person gives up all of his duties and he takes to the path of devotional service, but he does not become mature and he falls away, for him there's actually no loss. So this was like, this made me think like, okay, if there are devotees, if this movement is still going on that Srila Prabhupada is talking about, I better find it and I better try it, because there's going to be no loss for me in this. And so Srila Prabhupada's preaching, it's like the gold standard, and I always remember that moment of the first time of receiving Srila Prabhupada's mercy in such a strong way. So I'm going to stop here, and thank you so much for your attention and tolerance. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, on this day of your disappearance from this world, I'd just like to ask you for some blessings. We see that our movement has done so much, that we have made so much of progress, and that the world is changing as a result of all the sacrifice of all the devotees, and also in following what you have taught us. And I just want to pray to you to have the purity and the vision, and to have the fearlessness, as your name was Abai, and you displayed such amazing fearlessness in stepping forward at a very mature age into the total unknown, to push forward and to save the world from the disastrous situation. And I just pray to you for have a little bit of that strength to go forward and do the things that I need to do. And thank you. Srila Prabhupada. I would just like to say, addressing everyone here, that I was very fortunate to receive a book of Srila Prabhupada, which I found in a second-hand bookshop. And I didn't immediately read the book, but I kept it until I went to a very sacred place. And then I started to read. And I read the book, the Sri Upanishad, many, many times. And I didn't actually know anything about ISKCON, and I was in a very remote place, and I was asking people, and they were all telling me, Chelo, Bombay, go to Bombay, go to Bombay. And I was like, I don't want to go to Bombay, you know. But eventually I got the opportunity to go to Vrindavan. And I remember entering the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and at that time, I saw the Murti of Srila Prabhupada, and from a distance I thought, oh, he's here, and he's alone. But as I approached, by the way the light was falling, I could understand that he was a Murti form. And then I realized that, oh, actually I'm too late to really meet him. And I was very devastated. But then I understood that, you know, everything that Prabhupada thought was really important for us is contained within his books. And we simply have to take shelter of those books and his instruction. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachardine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine. Thank you, Brigupati Prabhu, for inviting me to say something. I think this might be the first time I've been invited or spoken publicly about Prabhupada in a place. And thank you to all of you for speaking. Srila Prabhupada's disciples and you know, my parents. So sometimes the best example or the best evidence is personal experience. And I resonate so much with what all of the devotees said here. And, you know, Prabhupada is so well known for his books and his about the author at the end of every book. After summarizing his entire life, they say, again, his greatest contribution in his books. And to be a little poetic about it, you know, text is always in black and white. And the Prabhupada Memories, that wonderful video series, and being able to live among you fills in the space between the lines. So we have this idea of Prabhupada speaking so punctually about the significance of human life, and it can seem like, and it is such a high standard, but then when we see the personal dealings that Prabhupada had with his disciples and his children, you're like, oh, okay. So there's also like a very soft, warm heart that's in all of this, and sometimes it's very wonderful because, you know, I was born in separation from Srila Prabhupada. I never got to see him personally, but having so much of his life presented in the example of his disciples and in the videos, the memories of Prabhupada, gives us a chance of feeling so close to him. And so that separation and the regret of not, or the heartbreak of not getting to see him or receive a personal instruction from him becomes bearable. So like I said, the best example is personal experience. So I'd like to say that, yeah, I was born in a materially stable or affluent position, and you know, my heart was broken by not having trust in anyone in the world. Everyone that I trusted in gave me a reason to, or showed that, you know, there was so much hypocrisy to what they were saying. So I lost my faith because of whatever reason. That's not important today. But what is important is that my parents tried so hard to like get me situated in the world in some way or other, and spent like a small fortune in trying to like
please just do something, like go to college, like here's a therapist, here's all these kinds of things, and really invested a small fortune. But it was a devotee that, you know, put a Sri Upanishad in my hand that cost less than $1 that changed my whole life. And then I was willing to do all the things my parents were begging me to do. I did it like for free. I was like, oh yeah, I guess we should stop smoking, and we should like practice celibacy, and we should. I never had a problem with gambling, but you know, I was like, yeah, and meat, that is a silly thing. Even though I was never liked it when people in Santa Monica were showing videos about it, when Prabhupada talked about it, like, so I think that that's a testament of Prabhupada's potency, that he can do with what looks materially to be so little. He changed the world. So then it was just basically me and Prabhupada. I was like, all right, it's you and me, and we'll figure this out. And I didn't believe that anyone could be like or close to what Prabhupada was like. And it wasn't until I was in a temple in Paraguay, there was a translation of the Sri Gurvastakam, and one of Prabhupada's disciples was giving the word-for-word translation. He said, without the mercy of the spiritual master, it's impossible to make progress. And so I was sitting against the wall, and I was like, fine, I guess there might be somebody that's a bona fide disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And right when I made that admittance to myself, a devotee from the kitchen was like, Prabhu, you want to help me clean the dishes? And I was like, all right, that's my first spiritual master. And it's been a wonderful life. So yeah, I'm definitely an example of Prabhupada's mercy, because like the whole biography of my life has to do with how Prabhupada personally or his disciples have you know, done something amazing. So one other thing. So, you know, trust is such a valuable thing, and when we take it away from someone, like Prabhupada explained, it's like the senses exist. You can't just kill them. There's a proper application for it. So I had taken my trust away from everyone in the world, but there was still a proper application. I was like, okay, I'll put in Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada said, give it to a spiritual master. So I was like holding it. I was like, who's that person that I'll put it all in? And by fortuitous happenings, Jagajivan Prabhu, he stimulated that I go to Brazil, or he encouraged that I go to Brazil, where I met my spiritual master. And when I had taken shelter, he initially didn't accept me. He was like, let's, as in plural, let's both of us establish ourselves in the mode of goodness first. I was like, okay. And then after about a month, which I thought was enough time to be established in the mode of goodness, I asked him again for shelter. And then he said, develop your relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And then I knew even more so that he was my spiritual master, but it was this like wonderful ping pong that was happening where, you know, I took away my trust and I gave it all to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, no, you put it in someone else. You put it in one of my disciples. And then so I put it in one of his disciples. He said, no, you put it back into Srila Prabhupada. And that's just been my whole life. It's been this like, that to me is what the Krishna consciousness movement is all about, that it's never static, it's always moving, and it's always anandam buddhi vardhanam, it's always growing. And so I'm very grateful to Srila Prabhupada. Everyone has said such nice things, and I, in a sense, wish that time would stop so I could just assimilate and think about it all again. But I trust that by being in service, these things will take root in my heart. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I kind of feel very unfair. I just walked in. Bhrugupati Prabhu is so merciful, he's asking me to speak. So I'm seeking blessings of all the devotees, if I can glorify a little bit of Srila Prabhupada. So before even I can speak to Prabhupada and exchange words, I'd like to just share something with all of your beautiful devotees assembled here. It was back in 2011, I was in Japan working with, and also with, was living there with family. And extremely turbulent times, in terms of work, life balance and all that. And I think that is when I was looking for answers on why somebody goes through so much of troubles in life. Why is that I was chosen to go through all these troubles and all that? And I still remember it was a devotee from Sri Vaishnav community. He somehow got this book of vegetarian cooking or something, and he gave me, try this book and try to read this book. And that book is what was life-changing for me. And I still wonder that how Prabhupada times to bring us in this movement. With that, distress, when somebody is going so much of distress, and at that time, if you don't get that shelter, you're actually going to meet the end, right? Meaning you're going to get destroyed. And I remember one of the astrologer who was seeing my horoscope some time back, he was telling me that I was this close to getting crazy or being labeled as mentally sick. I was this close. But that is when I got the shelter of Harinam. I got Hare Krishna's name. I started chanting with, after I started reading this book, I went to the temple, and obviously, devotees are so merciful. They engaged in the service from day one, cleaning the pots and all that. And rest is history. All of you know how Krishna consciousness works. And this is a live example. This is a very good example that in Krishna consciousness, anything is possible. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripam tamam vande Shri Guru Dhirantarinam. That even a dumb person can start talking and a lame person can climb mountain. Same thing. I was this close to becoming crazy or being labeled as somebody who's a lunatic just by the power of Krishna's name, just by chanting Krishna's name. All that troubles in the heart is gone. This is such a live example of Prabhupada's, his own words. And in my life, when I would start reading Bhagavad Gita, all the purports will look so similar. I would say, what is the difference? I was not able to appreciate, you know what I mean? But then when you read over and over again, it becomes so much sweeter. Then you actually realize each word has its own meaning and essence, context, so on and so forth. So in that way, as any other bhakta, I was very curious to know more about Krishna consciousness. And somebody advised me that you write letters to Prabhupada, right? And if you write those letters, somehow or the other, Prabhupada will make that answer come back to you, either through his scriptures, books, or some devotees and all that. And it happened. Every day I would write letters because I would have so many questions, and somehow he will get me the answers through the lectures or his books, so on and so forth. It's such an amazing personal experience what Prabhupada exchanges with all of us. So in that way, I feel so grateful to Prabhupada that having chosen me, such a rascal, no qualification at all, but then this is what is causeless mercy. There's no cause, but then he just wants to pull us back. So I think I'm so fortunate that I was able to realize Krishna consciousness in Japan. I was in India for a long time, and then I could continue practicing there. And now I'm here, Prabhupada's Western headquarters. And there is a reason I was able to devise this reason somehow very recently. Back in 2011, my son would start watching Prabhupada's video because somehow we started watching Kirtan and all that. And he would love this song of Guru Vandana, Prabhupada's, Guru Puja, where Prabhupada would enter this very temple. And that Kirtan or that song, my son will keep on watching, and I don't know why. And in my initial days, I would watch that song like over and over again for some reason, and tears would just not stop, and for some reason, and this is the same temple, Rukmini Dwarkadesh, And in that video, you will see those deities. Prabhupada is bowing down right there in the granite just in front of Jagannath. And for some reason, that kirtan became our favorite kirtan. And why was that? I don't know. And here I am speaking in New Dwarka Dham, where Prabhupada, that video is what is somehow or the other attracted me to Krishna consciousness. And he's called me here. So anyways, I would, on this very auspicious day of your disappearance, Srila Prabhupada, I would like to seek your blessings so that we can somehow or the other engage in your prachar seva, preaching, so that we can bring more and more jivas to your lotus feet and under the shelter of Krishna and Harinam. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pachayane Nirvasheshi Sunyavadi Pasate Shitani. Dear Srila Prabhupada, on the occasion of your departure from this world, I know you stated several times that for the Vaishnavas, appearance, disappearance, no difference. Because we all know what motivates us is that we are eternal servants of Krishna. If we don't accept that on a visceral level, then why are we motivated to continue? So yes, we know that the Vaishnavas, everyone, what to speak of an exalted soul like Srila Prabhupada, never dies. They just move on to the next situation that Krishna wants them to be in. But I always wondered, because in my own family, one maternal grandmother lived to be in her 90s. I have a maternal uncle who's now 95, who's still alive. I wonder, why didn't Krishna keep you at least until 108? Maybe we would have avoided so many problems. But in spite of problems, you also stated that this Krishna consciousness movement that you started, your movement, cannot be stopped. You stated clearly, the books are there, the chanting is out in the streets, it cannot be stopped. And every day we get a reinforcement of this statement from Prabhupada. Recently I saw a video on YouTube, you can look it up if you haven't seen it. It's called Viplava, from that verse, Jastat Visargo Janatago Viplava. Viplava means a revolution. So look up Viplava 2023, V-I-P-L-A-V-A. It's amazing. By Prabhupada's potency, the ISKCON movement has organized a youth movement in India. Tens of thousands, right now, it just happened recently in Govardhan, tens of thousands of young Indians, it seemed like it was mostly males, but anyway, tens of thousands of young Indians went to Govardhan. They had somewhere or other this big enough hall to do this in. And they are showing and their appreciation for Srila Prabhupada for saving them, for picking them out of the material morass. We all know what's going on in the world. It's not pretty. And they're all mostly educated young people. The video that I saw included several interviews, and they're all mostly educated young people, and they appreciate the path that Srila Prabhupada has put them on. So for those of us who maybe don't get out in the world that much, maybe don't leave America at all, so we're not so aware of the fact that Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada's brand of Krishna consciousness, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is exploding, has exploded. And so we should be very much heartened by that. It deepens our faith in Srila Prabhupada. It deepens our commitment to assist in whatever way we can to help this explosion continue. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dorkarani, you wanted to say something? You have like 3 minutes to go.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, I did not prepare anything, but I was getting pressure from a couple of devotees. So Jai Srila Prabhupada, thank you so much for this service, for the devotees, for this temple, for our lives. I just wanted to say something because I've been here a while, and for the last 20 years I've been able to be in the BBT. And there's so much talk about the books and how the books are going, and devotees are actually surprised at just how many books are going out. They don't know. And the books that you're taking out, the people that are going out, that are book distributors, they're on the front lines. I'm the person that gets to answer the phone and talk to the people that get the books by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And you'd be just amazed at the people that call in. I have one guy that calls all the time, and he just loves what he calls the Bhajagavita. He said he can hardly speak English, and he reads the Bhajagavita all the time. And I don't know how he does it, but he keeps ordering books. And there's another girl that lives up in the mountains in North Carolina, and she's all by herself, and she's way up in the mountains. And she got a book that someone left in a store, and she brought it home and read it. She's highly intelligent. It's almost terrifying to talk to her. And she goes up in the mountains with her dog, and they build temples for Krishna in the mountains. And she reads the book to her dog. And I think it's important that we know, because there's a lot of politics sometimes that get involved. I've been protected from it because I don't think I'm that intelligent, but you know, people say, oh, they shouldn't have done this, they shouldn't have done that. But Prabhupada's potency is so strong that no matter what you do, the potency comes through. You know, whether you're for or against, it doesn't really matter. And people like Brigupati Prabhu and Sachitanoy Prabhu and all the book distributors that go out, they're on the front lines. And it doesn't matter, you know, to them anything. They just have to get the books out there. And I just wanted to come and say, testify that the people that are getting the books are having profound experiences. One lady turned her whole family vegetarian because she read a book. And she said now they're all chanting. So that's all I really have to say, is that Jai Srila Prabhupada, thank you for everything. Thank you for bringing us to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Everyone, please come up forward and grab some flowers. And try to come up close, please. But please don't throw it on Srila Prabhupada personally. And take enough to offer 3 times. All right, please move up, move up, move up, move up. Okay, if everyone can please repeat. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam